I'm Peter Guterson, and I'm very proud to be a Dino.
Peter was a great teammate, a little bit younger than us, but a great competitor, and always was trying to hone his craft. He had a no-quit attitude on everything that he did. He would, get you into a gut wrench and start squeezing you so hard that you couldn't breathe and ask you if it hurts yet, and you couldn't reply because you couldn't breathe. So those were the kinds of things that Peter did. He would just be in the weight room. He would be anything he could do to improve his wrestling skills. He was always asking questions, inquisitive, trying to get another 5 minutes of work in when practice is done. And that's what led to his outstanding career.
One of my friends and I, and he ended up wrestling with me as well, his name was Jim Keeley. We went to King Edward Junior High, and they had a programs for kids in the summertime where you can go play floor hockey, gymnastics, ball hockey, and they had a wrestling room, and of course him and I went into that room, and there was only one guy in there, and it was the coach. Some guy from the UFC wrestling team back in the 70s that was in there coaching, and he asked us if we'd like to give it a try, and I said we'd love to. And from that time on, I fell in love with it. Well, when I was in grade 10 at St. Mary's High School here in Calgary, I knew that the UFC had a wrestling program there. So of course I went they had a club, and I can't remember before Bill Emsick. Bill Emsick used to be the football coach here, one of the football coaches here, and there was a fellow before him. Well, I started going to their practices, and I was in high school, and he allowed me to come. So it's just from there it progressed, and they'd have practices, and I would just show up as many times as I could. And then of course I had my high school practices, and once the wrestling was done there, probably in November, I just kept going to the UFC, and I stuck around there basically from 1975 and on and off till 2011.
Pete in Calgary is famous or notorious, depending on how you put it, within our Dinos wrestling community. Everybody knows Pete, and he is gregarious and friendly with everyone, and always loves to talk about the old days and loves to talk about wrestling. And so Pete stayed training on the mat for a very long time, up until very recently. He actually stayed active in the sport for a long period of time. He didn't just have his international career and then stopped. He kept training, competing. He entered the Dino, I can't remember how long ago, but he came and wrestled another tournament as a very mature individual. So he just loved the game that much that he wanted to stay with it as long as he could.
I think the camaraderie of the guys and the good times you had together stands out the most, over winning or anything else. Well, I won my first nationals after most people were retiring back in the 80s at the age of 27. And I won Outstanding Wrestler. I was very proud, very, very proud of that. And then 10 years later, at the age of 37, I win the Nationals again and won Outstanding Wrestler. And I think, for me, those are things that stand out. And I was blessed because of the fire department that I could go on and continue and do a sport where you're not getting anything financially from. A lot of people, after their university careers, if they can't find a job or a sport that pays, they usually just move on. Whereas I stuck with it. And my goal, and make a long story short, I went to 5 different Olympic trials. And of course, the one that I went in at the age of 44, but I didn't qualify the weight class. So those are the things that stand out for me, is that longevity and age shouldn't be a hindrance, right? If you want to do something you love, just do it. And don't worry about what everybody else thinks.
Pete was a scrapper. I'll be honest, Pete was a tough nut, and he gave everything he had in every match, and he turned matches into brawls all the time. But it was a style that he had, and he was hard on opponents, and he pushed himself hard in training, and so you could always rely on a great effort from Pete in matches.
You know what I think it is? It's just you have it or you don't have it. I don't think there's any point that someone could say, well, where's that fire? I think it's just who you are. I hate losing. Both my brothers hated losing. My one brother would get so upset if he lost. Don't put this on, you might see this when he's at the banquet. But yeah, I think the competitiveness just comes from within the person himself. I don't think it's something you learn, I think it's just who you are. I think anybody that's getting recognized by their peers is something special. It shows that you gave everything you had. I wasn't the most talented guy in the world, but I can honestly say I was probably one of the hardest working one out there. And I can say that and look at you in the eye and say that, yes. a never quit attitude.